All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend television show with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. And today, we have a very interesting, and I do say interesting, character in the studio today. So today we're taking a look at a man that was doing work in the nonprofit sector. Some things happened. He found himself in a situation that most of us probably would not be able to deal with, because I know I wouldn't. And from there, it has created this advocacy that I've watched him do, which is absolutely amazing. So we're going to get right into it. So I'm going to let him introduce himself right now, and we're just going to move along from there. So tell everybody your name and about you.
Okay, my name is Dwight Futch, and I am an advocate for criminal justice reform and parole reform. That's what I do.
So what does that mean in a nutshell? Like, what does that mean?
That means I'm the guy that's really trying to change the narrative, because right now we have one narrative, and that is mass incarceration. And until we're able to create a new narrative that reduces the level of mass incarceration through the places of systemic racism, then we have not changed anything. So my assignment, what I believe God has assigned me to do, is to help create House bill policies. I believe that until the policies change within the criminal justice system, then we will not get the respect that we need, because there are a lot of policies that are out there. But just because it's a policy does not mean it's law.
So let's start with mass incarceration, because I like to break down terms. What does mass incarceration actually mean?
Mass incarceration to me is it's the overflowing or the overabundance of one set of people. Mass incarceration deals with the masses, and I think that right now we're dealing with a system that loves mass incarceration because it has a money tag on it. And so mass incarceration is lock up anything, everybody, as quick as possible, because we need the money.
So are we just talking about black males, or are we talking about black people in general?
Right now we're talking about there is a genocide on black males right now. But because money and because mass incarceration is so lucrative, anybody can fall in it now. Look, your mama could be driving down the street and they break her, and then her tail light is off, and next thing you know, mama's in jail because of the way a lot of officers are handling us. And mama be like, don't handle me like that. And now she went from the broken tail light to disorderly conduct, obstruction of justice. Now she's a part of the mass incarceration.
Okay, so when we say mass incarceration, and we're talking about systematic, because this has become a thing. And like I said, we say these terms, and most people, we say we know what it means. And then when you actually have a conversation with them, people are like, I don't really know what that means. I just kind of go with the flow. Right. So when we say systematic racism, what are we talking about? Are we talking about legislation? Are we talking about policies? What are we talking about?
We're talking about a system that is bent on incarceration. A system that is bent on, it does not matter whether you are guilty or not guilty, we're going to convict you. A system that actually says that if you come into our county, we have a 95 to 100% conviction rate, even if you did not do it. If you did it, then hey, oh well. But it has a lot to do with the system that I believe, and many do believe, needs to be revamped. We have a system right now that is geared especially towards African Americans. All right. That's what the system is geared towards right now. And the only way we're going to fix that is we've got to put policies in place, and we've got to get leadership that look like us, that respect our positions when it comes to these particular issues.
So when you say leadership that looks like us, Atlanta's had black leadership for a significant amount of years. So, and you know where I'm going with this, because you got a look on your face. Atlanta has had significant black leadership for at least the last 25 years. And the numbers that I'm hearing and the experts that I'm having on here, we're in dire straits. So what exactly, what are you saying right now to me, Dwight? What are you saying right now? That having leadership reflective of what we look like, is that really the answer?
Well, that is a part of the answer, but the real answer is this: leadership that really care. Because right now you're dealing with leadership that really don't care. And when you start dealing with leadership that do not care, you get these numbers that you get when it comes to mass incarceration. Because once again, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And right now, the leaders that we have gotten so comfortable in their positions until they don't even believe that they could be removed in the morning.
Did you say in the morning?
Oh, come on.
FYI, he's a preacher. So that's a FYI, he is a preacher. So when he said in the morning,
Yes, sir.
yeah, that's a preacher term.
Oh,
That's a
come on
preacher term.
here. In the morning.
That's a
Amen.
preacher term. That's a preacher term. Okay, so because I've had that conversation a lot lately. We've had black leadership in Atlanta for a significant number of years, and yet our communities are in dire straits.
Yes.
So my thing is, how does that happen? And as it pertains to legislation, actually, I'm going to ask you this question, which I normally would not ask, but because you are you,
That's right.
I want to ask you this. So the changing of the guards, I know you know what that means.
Yes.
The changing of the guards, how excited or not excited are you about having Warnock in the Senate?
Well, the deal is this. It really makes no difference who's in the Senate, because we as a people are going to be all right, because we've been all right over the years, whether it was a bad person in position as a good person. One, because we trust God. All right. Now, Warnock being in position, then we're going to see. All right. But it's a good move. It's a good look. Okay. It actually says that for once.
All right, hold that thought. So we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to have more of Dwight and criminal justice, all things criminal justice, on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, so when we left, we were talking about Warnock being in the new Senate seat, and how, is that a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion? That's
Right.
the question we left off. So I'll let you finish that thought.
Well, I think it's good because it shows that when we do come together, we can make something happen. Because, for the most part, we as a black community don't vote like we should vote. But this proves to every person in the community and abroad.
That's your TD Jakes voice? I feel that's your TD Jakes voice. That's your TD Jakes voice?
Amen. That everybody in the community, when we pull together, we can make something happen, and we just made it happen.
I'm going to ask you this because you have an ear to the ground. I'm doing a completely different way I normally would do this because I like your answers. So what was different? There was something different about this, because people who normally would say my voice does not matter, neither does my vote, felt differently this go around. What was different? Because you have your ear to the streets. Why did it seem different this go around?
I think a lot of it had to do with Stacey Abrams. I think a lot of it also had to do with Governor Kemp stealing the vote. I think Stacey Abrams created this organization called Fair Justice, and Fair Justice was the organization that helped push the Democratic team and all of the resources. So in the streets, a lot of people were mad because of the governor's election.
Well, that was a while ago. That was like, what, 2 years ago?
It was, but you know how we do. When we hurt, and sometimes we carry hurt for long periods of time. Many of us have already been traumatized by the system, and we're still traumatized even today, even 400 years ago. And so today we've made a conscious decision through this, and the streets have made the decision that we're not going to tolerate it anymore. I think our eyes are becoming open now. Marvin Gaye made it very clear. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. And so we're waking up today.
You just had to throw that in?
I had to.
You just had to throw that in?
Time to wake up.
Okay, I got to get him off my set. So we're going to get into his story. So, all right, let's talk about, take us back to the beginning. What were you doing before all of that happened? What were you doing?
Well, prior to any of this happening, I graduated from John Jay College of Criminal Justice with a pre-law degree. After I graduated with my pre-law, I went on and became a New York City correction officer.
So that's where you're from?
Yes, I'm actually from Brooklyn, New York.
No, really? Yeah. I would never guess that.
Yo, son, Bedford-Stuyvesant, yo. I'm actually from Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy. Grew up there, raised up there all my life. Went to John Jay once again. After I left John Jay, I went to the United States Army and went into the military and stayed in the military for over 6 years and went overseas. And then I came home. And then when I came home, I decided to go ahead on and, continue my career, and went on and became the correction officer.
Okay, what kind of age bracket are we talking about?
Well,
how old were you at this time?
I was 17 years old when I went into the military. When I came home from the military, I was about 20-something years old. And then after the 20-something years old, I decided to go to pre-law school. And then around 28, 29, somewhere around there, or 24, wherever. I don't have the exact timeline, but then when I graduated, I decided to go ahead on and be a correction officer. I wanted to work in the prison. My degree was corrections administration. So I was already focused on corrections. All right, because that's what my degree is in, corrections administration. So I took jobs in prisons because I love prisons.
Who loves prisons?
And see, that's the crazy part.
Who loves prisons?
I don't know. I still ain't figured that out today. I guess that's why they sent me to prison.
You know what? So was your degree, you said criminal justice administration.
Right.
So was it designed for you to work in the office at a prison or to actually be on the operational side, like as a guard?
No, I really wanted to be a warden of an institution. I actually wanted to run a prison. Because I always felt I was a leader. And I always felt that I can help bad guys to become good because of my zero tolerance for ignorance and stupidity, and because I was raised in the streets. And I know we can do better. But we need somebody that will be transparent enough to say, hey, bro, you're not going to do that here because I understand it and that don't work.
So you ended up doing corrections for how long?
I did corrections in New York for about 2 years. Then I went over to Washington, D.C. and became a correction officer in Fairfax, Virginia, when Marion Barry was the mayor. Oh. Everybody know Marion Barry. Yeah. Him and Rashada Moore got caught with the goods. And so, but I worked in that prison. I worked in Lorton, 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 Virginia. Eventually it was closed down, but I did almost about 6 years, man, working inside them joints, and they were high level prisons. Very dangerous, very dangerous. It was so dangerous, it's closed today. Okay.
All right, so after you did that, what did you do?
I decided to kind of like get a little bit closer to God, and I started working in ministry.
In the prison system or a separate?
On my way out the door, I felt like it was time to start going back to the roots of where my grandmother raised me in church. Then I had a little bout with dope too, so that's another story too. But I had a bout with with the dope game too. Smoking freebase back in the '80s. Freebase cocaine was
like that New Jack City type time frame when all that was.
Smoked my kneecaps off at one time, bro.
All right, so we're gonna take another pause.
Right.
We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna finish Dwight's story on the Leadership and Television Show with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. All right, so we're back with Dwight Futch, and we're talking about all things criminal justice and his experience with the system personally. All right, so we were talking about your correctional career.
Yes, sir.
And we finished that. How did you end up in Atlanta? How long have you been in Atlanta?
I've actually been in Atlanta since '06.
Oh.
I got here in '06. I was actually in Portland, Oregon before I came here because I was actually doing ministry. I was working as an evangelist. So when I left the Department of Corrections, I started hooking up with different evangelists and just working and
And this is apostolic.
Yeah, all this is apostolic. Yeah, the fivefold ministry.
Speaking in tongues, laying on hands.
Yeah, falling out, bubbling out the mouth.
I wasn't gonna say that, but okay, yes,
you know what I mean?
That is apostolic, folks.
Rolling all on the ground. So I got hooked up with these people. Then I heard the Spirit of the Lord speak to me and said, go to Atlanta. I didn't know where part of Atlanta to go. I just know God said, go to Atlanta. And for some kind of way, I happened my feet happened to hit Cobb County. Nowhere else but Cobb County.
I mean, I personally love County. I've lived in Cobb. Mm-hmm. I just recently moved out of Cobb after 10 years. I love Cobb.
Right. To be quite honest with you, I did when I first got there because I didn't see anything really wrong. I wasn't doing nothing wrong, so I didn't see nothing wrong. Just living my life, my best life.
All right, so then you started nonprofit.
I started an alternative to incarceration program, and my program was I started out with a 5-bed facility that would actually take people in that were on their way to prison, and so I would actually go to court quite often to try to negotiate for each individual's life. And so the judge would allow them to come to my 12-step alternative to incarceration program, inpatient, with some rules. And some of those rules were, I'll sentence you to 5 years in prison for the crime you've done, but I'll suspend 1 year if you complete Mr. Futch's program. And so right there, I was able to snatch people out one by one into a program that was very structured.
So how long did this go until the incident? How long were you doing it?
For about 5 years.
And then the incident happens. What happens?
I had the males program first. Never wanted the females program because I knew females were trouble. And me being an ex-former officer, I said, no, I don't want to deal with the females. But I had mothers keep coming to me saying, Mr. Futch, can you open up a females program? Because my daughter's sitting in Alto. My daughter's sitting in Pulaski. And they need a program, but nobody won't take them. Those were indicators right there. Nobody won't take them. But I took them. I took them. Eventually, I opened up a females program. I took them. Long story short, they were in the room smoking dope, crack, crystal meth. I find out through my staff. I go in there and I tell them, I said, I've given you plenty time to do right, but you continue to do wrong and you're creating syndromes in this house. Because if I let you do the dope in the house, then your roommate gonna relapse and your other roommate gonna be relapse, and then everybody in this house gonna be relapsing because of you. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to put you out and everybody else in there smoking that dope. And you already know that's what I did. I put all 3 white girls right out of that doggone program. And 8 months later, I was being charged with rape.
All right, so let's go there. So this comes up, and from there, what happens?
I spend thousands of dollars, man, to try to free myself. Everything closes. Hold on.
Take your time. It was a very, like I said, I did some research on it, or the research team did some research on it, and you had these, we'll call them halfway house. So that's the terminology people understand. And from there, these young ladies made the accusations, and they became charges.
Yeah.
And you ended up having to go to court. You ended up in prison, in jail, correct?
Yeah, I spent over 90 days in Cobb County Jail, sometimes sleeping on their floors. And I went for a bond hearing. The first time they wouldn't give me the bond. Stayed all the way till 120 days. I paid about $30,000 for a lawyer. Eventually, they gave me a bond. The bond was $100,000, and so I had to spend all that money. They gave me 30 charges. I still ain't figured out how did I get 30 felony accusations on three crackheads. You see, they tore their own families up, so they came to tear up, what I had going on.
And you were telling me about the jury.
The jury was all white.
Because, the notion is that we're supposed to have a jury of our peers. So all 12 of them were non-African American.
Right.
So they have the trial. How did you end up getting out of this?
We don't have the trial because when I saw it, I backed away from it because I knew if I went, it would be the life sentence. And so what we did is I looked at my lawyer. I said, man, we can't do that. He said, this Cobb County. I said, so, he says, but the prosecutor wanted to make you an offer. I said, an offer? I said, okay, go get the offer. He says, okay. He came back and said 20 years. I said, 20 years for what? I ain't do nothing, bro. I said, I ain't do nothing. What is you talking about, 20 years? He says, 20. I said, no, I ain't taking it. And me and my wife, we prayed. And I asked God, I said, God, what you got me into? What you got me into? And then I heard the Lord speak to me. Actually, it's telling him, you're not taking the 20. Okay, cool. So he goes back to the prosecutor again and said, listen, give me another deal. So now they give him another deal. This one is 3 years. He says, they want you to do 3 years on a 20. Well, really it was 20 and 10 because they wanted me to do a minimum mandatory sentencing guideline. That's how you get to 20 and 10. So he wanted me to do the 20-10 because he came back the second time with the 20-10. I said, no. I said, bro, I ain't doing that, bro. I'm not doing that. I just gave you all this money. I'm not doing that, bro. Then he come back. He said, hold on. He come back. Then he come back with the 3. I said, so y'all keep chopping this number down. See, all this makes me starting to feel
some kind of way, right?
Yeah,
so.
because it's like, okay, you keep chopping this number down. Why are you chopping the number down? What's really going on with this case?
All right, hold that thought. So we're going to take our next break, and when we come back, we're going to get more into this story on the Leadership in Television Show with your host, Ricardo D. Rice. Okay, so they keep playing around with the charges or the time for the charges.
Right.
So what do you ultimately settle on? What's the settlement?
I said for the 20 and do 3 years on the 20. So I go down the road and I do 3. Then I come back home. They come back and get me and make me do 2 more years.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's another story.
How does that even happen? After they've already sentenced you and you've already done the 3 that y'all agreed on, you go home and they come back and take you back for another 2 years.
Because my probation officer, which was white in Douglas County, he came with another 4 white people. They came and searched my house, took my wife's firearm. She is a Second Amendment firearm holder. She had a gun permit and everything. They say because she got the gun in the house, we locking you up again for possession of a firearm now. Wow. And they added that to that, sent me back down the road 2 times. And so I did 5 on that. So that was another 5 years right there.
So you did a total of what, 8 years?
No, I did a total of 5.
Okay, so that was the 2
so the 3
on
there,
top of the 3.
Right, then they come back and I hit me with another 2.
Oh, good grief.
You see?
So while you were in the system, what did you witness while you were in the system that made you such a fire advocate once you got out?
I think what made me, because I saw so much injustice to a lot of the white boys up in there that were being extorted. A lot of the white boys, they were taking their monies, and a lot of the white boys were on drugs, and they were just being beat up by gangs. And then I saw a lot of the blacks being railroaded as well. So I just seen so much injustice within the system, and I knew that I didn't belong in the system, but since they put me in there, I became what I call a participant observationist, and I just began to observe everything, write down everything, take notes of everything, and I told everybody, listen, when I get home, I promise you, my brother, I'm coming back to get you. And so today, I reach back. Today, I continue to fight for my brothers and sisters in prison. Because why? Because I know the pain. I know the pain of injustice. I know the pain of being locked up for something you did not do. I know that pain. And I've heard so many people say they didn't do something. Now, and I also heard so many people say they did it, but they were over sentenced. I've heard so many people say, I did it, man, but I didn't do that one. And so, I heard so many stories, and there are a lot of brothers in there that are willing to accept what they have done. But I think there has been an overreaching in the system. There has been an overreaching, especially when it comes to blacks and minorities.
Okay, so when he says overreaching, for those that do not know, what he's saying is the punishment does not fit the crime.
The punishment does not
That's in essence what he's saying. That if I have a minor marijuana charge, I'm getting 10 years, stuff like that. That's what he means when he says overreaching and things of that magnitude. So fast forward 5 years and maybe longer, but we'll say today. Yeah. So what is your focal point today in this season? What is your focal point?
My focal point is to get underneath the gold dome and begin to fight for some new policies when it comes to...
What is the gold dome? We just want to say it, Cameron?
The state capitol.
I was like, what is the gold dome? Okay, carry on. You just terminology. Carry on. I was like, what is that? Okay.
Yeah, to go to the state capitol, to get the legislators and the state representatives to back me on this new bill. I've got 2 or 3 senators and representatives already ready to back me on this new bill. And one of the bills is a House bill that deals with parole reform, because that is my fight right there, parole reform, because you got a lot of guys sitting in prison on life sentences that have been, that are model prisoners, model, but they continue to be denied. Now, a life sentence in Georgia was 7 years. several years ago. A life sentence now is 30 years. So if you get caught right now doing anything, you get a life sentence, that's 30 years. You got guys that had 7-year life sentence, and here it is 29 years later, and they still sitting inside Georgia's prison because we have a parole board that is made up of law enforcement officers that do not show any levels of transparency. Everything is done in the secret darks, and many of the parole board is more about denying these guys parole than giving them parole that are model. So my thing is this: if you're a model prisoner, why won't you let a model prisoner come home? If you telling me based on his case management plan, this is a model prisoner, then why do you keep denying him? Why do you keep setting him off? And they keep setting him off after they have all their GEDs, all their classes. I mean, they have everything, bro. They got more certificates than me and you. You see, because why? Because they continue trying to prove to others, I'm ready to come home. Okay, so I want to create a house, but do you know that the parole board in Georgia don't have a panel where a guy can actually go in front of the parole board like in Shawshank Redemption? You remember Shawshank Redemption? Mm-hmm. Morgan Freeman came right in front of the parole board. Georgia doesn't have that. Georgia looks at you through a piece of paper, and from the paper they say, deny. That is not effective, nor is it efficient, nor does it work for the community as well as the parolee. So I want to create a House bill that says, one, that all officers in Georgia's prisons have body cam. That's number one, because you got too many of these brothers in there coming up missing and coming up dying inside Georgia's prison. And we want to hold the county, we want to hold the Georgia's prisons, and we want to hold every officer and every warden accountable, okay, from this day forward. And I want body cameras inside them joints. And when I get these body cameras, I want to make sure that that parole board has 4 or 5 panel, and I want that House bill to pass.
All right. So we are out of time. So
that's all.
we are out of time.
Oh, man.
You know, look, this is a snippet so that people go look you up and find you. You know you got enough advocacy going on. So how do people get in touch with you?
You can go to my website, www.georgia, Georgia, the number 7, ATL.com. Go to the website, get all the information you need to get on your boy. This your boy. Or go to Facebook and look me up under Peace, Justice. Peace.
All right, everybody. Special thanks to our guest today, Mr. Dwight Futch, for being with us. Thank you, sir, for bringing you and your New York style in to tell us what's really going on in the criminal justice system. And we will see you guys next Monday, same time, same place on the Leadership Blend television show with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.